the whole national conversation yesterday, we had it on this program. The whole Monday was just filled with reaction to Week 5, but none more so than the roughing the passer penalty called Grady on Brady in Tampa. 3 minutes to go. Brady wrapped up by Grady Jarrett around his waist. Grady Jarrett, in taking him down to the ground, puts Brady from his right hip to Jarrett's left hip. And that motion of taking him to the ground like that was ruled by Jerome Boger roughing the passer. And anybody who saw it was absolutely infuriated. It cost the Falcons an opportunity to get the ball back on the spot. And I said here yesterday, let's make this reviewable. Not by the coaches, because that opens up that whole Pandora's box of we saw what happened when you made judgment calls like pass interference reviewable. It was a total disaster. Total disaster. So let's not make a judgment call like roughing the passer challengeable by the coaches. And I'm like, cool, that's fine. Let's let New York City handle it. Let's let the Art McNally Review Center in New York City, where all the officials who are monitoring games and doing replays and stuff like that are sitting every Sunday, Thursday, anytime there's a game, certainly on Monday night. Let them handle it. Let them get in the ear of their colleagues at the stadium and say, we just looked at it, pick the flag up. Let's do it. Come on. It's simple. Would have worked last night, because just when we thought the Grady Jarrett roughing the passer call was the worst roughing the passer call we've seen this year, if not ever, Carl Cheffers, last night's lead official, said, hold my beer. And of course, when there is an issue with anything in any sport, certainly in the NFL, the most scrutinized sport that we have in America, there will always be a loophole found. And there's another loophole that we found, which is what happens if a 300-plus pound man, while taking the quarterback down, removes the ball from him in the process. What if in the middle of the sack, the sacker becomes the ball carrier? What happens then?
Unprecedented.
Yeah. And what happens when in the process of carrying the ball down to the ground, that takes one arm away from said 300-pounder from not placing his entire body pressure atop of the quarterback because he is in possession of the ball. One hand that he would normally use to maybe prop himself up to avoid putting his entire body pressure on the quarterback is occupied because he just made an incredible athletic play.
Yeah.
And in his offhand, actually did brace himself and the impact. Mm-hmm. Carl Cheffers, the lead ref, says, no, that's still a penalty. Let's hear from Chris Jones first. This was Chris Jones after the game last night.
From the ref point of view, he probably looked like that initially, but, you know, and when you look at the replay, it's a whole different thing. So I think now to evolve roughing the passer and protecting the quarterback is essentially what we're doing in this league. We got to be able to look at roughing the passers in the booth. You take a look at Grady Jarrett situation.
I was going to ask you about that. Did you see that one from yesterday?
Of course. It's all over Twitter. And what type of situation that was in the game. That was a third down stop also. And then when you take that in initiative, if we're able to view it in the booth and the referees can get a second look because it's happening so fast, maybe we can change that. Because now it's getting absurd. You know what I'm saying? Now it's causing teams games. You know, that was a fourth down stop on Grady Jarrett. That team would have got the ball back, and you know, who knows what would have happened. But for them not to be able to look at that when you see it on videos, you can, and faster, when it's faster and you're on the field and it happen that fast, the ref, they might see something different. But when they're able to look at the video and see that it's not roughing the passers, a lot of these roughing the passers would be called back.
Huzzah! +1,
Bingo.
+2,
Two.
+3.
I'm in.
I didn't mean to say +4.
Okay.
Though you might wear them playing golf.
I know.
8. Chris Jones, way to go, sir.
Indeed.
He also said I'm a 300-pound man. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
There's this thing called
Actually,
gravity.
it's funny. Look up that video. He said I'm 340 and then corrected himself 320 pounds. He took like 15 pounds off. It's brilliant.
Didn't
Check
wanna get
that one out.
fined?
Oh, it's great. What's he supposed to do? All right, Carl Cheffers, like all head and referees, they are required to speak to a pool reporter after the game. Just one-on-one, not on camera. So here's part of the back and forth. The question was the fact the ball came out before the quarterback landed on the ground and the player landed on the quarterback, does that negate the penalty at all? No, because he still gets passing protection until he can defend himself. So with him being in a passing posture and actually attempting to make a pass, he's going to get full protection until the time when he actually can protect himself. The fact that the ball came out and was subsequently recovered by the defense is not relevant as far as the protection the quarterback gets. That makes absolutely no sense. So nothing changes as far as the rule when he loses the ball is the question. Answer. Just as if he had thrown the ball, he still gets protection. It's the same here. It's just a loose ball of another sort. Okay, I guess it's a loose ball when you've thrown the pass. Now the loose ball's in the arms of the guy who's sacking you, but he would still get protection that is afforded to players in a passing posture that extends after he's no longer in control of the ball. That is absolutely, totally unintelligible. I've read it 10 times. Right? I have 2 degrees. I've been covering the sport for 2 decades.
I don't. Well.
And so. I asked this question of my colleagues in ownership and the competition committee. Would you rather all of us be talking today about Carl Cheffers' explanation of, having the ball ripped out from your arms by somebody who's sacking you in the process and thus can't really fully brace himself for the impact caused by said sacking and ripping the football out? We will not celebrate that play. No. We would rather Carl Cheffers give us the explanation today. We'd rather everyone talk about that rather than what an incredible athletic play by one of the best players in the NFL. Now, let's talk about this gobbledygook. Which is what it is.
A lot of words.
And so Cheffers was asked, was New York involved in this? Meaning the people back in New York that I'm talking about that should review this. He said, no, New York was not involved in this. And that question didn't need to be asked because New York is not allowed to be let in on this decision-making process right now. I say change that. Change it right now because they are part of the process. They are part of the process when you're processing the game. If there was a fight, let's just say a fight broke out after the Chris Jones sack, New York could call in and say, hey, that person pushed that person threw a punch, take him out of the game, even though you didn't see it. New York's allowed to do that. New York's allowed to do, hey, that is not a fumble because the ground caused it. You called it a fumble. Let's save the other coach a challenge. Let's do it. Or that is a fumble. Or, yeah, that one should be on this yard line. We saw that last night, actually. I forget who was involved. But you remember, I think it was at the top of the second half. The Chiefs got a first down on a play. But no, it was moved back prior to the line to gain because somebody touched the player's helmet while he was down on the ground.
Yeah, it was a good call.
Who do you think made that call? That wasn't the refs getting all together and saying, wait a minute. He did touch him by the helmet, and the ball's right at that spot, not the first down. It was New York. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I understand.
It was the Hawkeye people saying, hey, wait a minute. We saw he got his helmet touched. Yeah. That's not a first down because it saved the Raiders a challenge. They could have challenged that. And they want to move the game along. So if you want to do this and they're allowed to do it for certain things, let's fold roughing the passer into it. It's not going to happen now, though. And you could sit here and say, well, of course they won't do it because it doesn't make enough sense. They don't do things that make sense. That's not true. It's just this is something that they won't do in the middle of a season. So, and you were sitting here wondering, are they doing all this because of what happened to Tua? Is this an overreaction? I don't believe so.
Oh,
I do not. I don't believe so. I don't.
Why?
I don't believe so. Because why is it all happening? Because they have called fewer penalties, such penalties this year. They've already called half as many penalties through the first 5 weeks this year than they did last year. By the way, they were more happy calling flag happy calling this last year than the first 5 weeks than the first 5 weeks.
I
of
know,
this year.
but it happens to Tua on back-to-back weeks, and now we've seen 3 in a row. Like, why wasn't there a flag when Patrick Mahomes got slung to the ground in the exact same way that Brady did?
Good question. I don't know. I don't have any answer. It's just inconsistent, and it is maddening. And I just want to say, it's refs helping refs. Let the refs help refs, okay? They're there. They're sitting in New York City. They can see it, and they can save their colleagues from making a wrong call in the worst possible spot.